Hey everybody, and welcome to my in5 series where I cover a topic in about 5 minutes. Big Tower, maybe it's Big One Tower, writes in and asks what the build quality of the OPZ is, and I would probably call it fair. There are absolutely issues with it bending. You might be able to see here, mine's got a little bit of a bend to it. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. But yeah, let's talk about some of the problems. The knob here, from just getting twisted, the inside will eventually tear and rip apart. I've glued mine together to repair it, but it's just another fair amount of time before it fails. So I bought a 3D printed one that is much better. I haven't had any problems with it. These little rubber pieces on the bottom, you have to screw and unscrew to get inside here. And they require quite a bit of pressure and because they're rubber, if you use a tool to get in here, you're probably going to rip off the bottom. But I'm just trying to take the bottom off here so I can show you. What's stuck? I guess we're not too stuck. Anyway, I mean, it's fine, but it's not the high. Like it's not, if once it breaks or fails, you're kind of in trouble. The battery is something that, as far as I know, you can't buy the batteries anymore, and I've seen people basically have to rip this apart and solder onto these pads to get a new battery in here. Seems like a terrible experience. I mean, you can do it, but it's not the best way to do it. Getting the line modules in, they don't all, like, there's a little locking mechanism, but they don't always keep the contacts on the board. I'm not going to bother taking it apart, but yeah, those are just like a few things for the case itself. I mean, I just usually tighten these by hand myself so I don't tear anything or mess up the rubber, but that's that. Yeah, the buttons here, they do double trigger like crazy from time to time. I found that what I suspect is happening is that the contacts, it's a piece of metal, and they are just getting oxidized. You'll see people say to put deoxit in here, but there's a thin piece of I'll call tape that goes on top of the little balls, the metal like pieces that hold it in place. The tape is holding it in place. So if you just sit here and just kind of hammer on the buttons like 10 or 20, excuse me, 10 or 20 times, you got to loosen it up, break off some of that oxidation, and they should be fine for a little while. But once they start double triggering, it's going to be a lifelong problem. So I try and kind of use it from time to time. I also know people have had problems with these knobs popping off. Once they pop out, they start acting, they're hard to keep in. I've seen like some weird tricks that people have done to try and repair them. But honestly, I don't know. Once they pop out, I think that's when you're in trouble. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to repair, honestly. I have seen people complain about the pitch bend failing, and it is pretty hard to work. But I mean, besides that, I think like if you're willing to put up with double triggers, and you know, you're not planning on popping in and out of the backside here to replace your different adapters for like the line mod or the different modules. So if you're not like looking to replace or switch out for the line module, the CV module or the rumble module, and you're just going to use whatever you got, I think you're pretty fine. But as far as I've seen, I don't think you can get parts to repair this very well anymore. So you're probably looking at buying a busted system that hopefully has donor parts that you can use to repair yours if something happens to yours. The line module is getting harder and harder to find. It's probably the best module for this. The CV one is pretty nice too. It allows you to do a few things with like Euro rack and stuff, but I personally think that the line module is the must-have. It allows you to do some pretty fancy routing of audio and mixing, and it allows you to use the tape effect on external gear. So if you're only going to buy used, you're probably going to suffer from at least one, if not two of the problems. I would say the probably most likely ones are the rubber feet on the bottom here are probably going to, they're very possibly chewed up. So I'd try and get some pictures of it to see like how those look. I would ask if the modules can connect consistently to the system, because if you start the more this bends, I suspect the more likely issues you're going to have with the line module connecting. I would ask about double triggers, and I would ask if the knobs are popping off. This volume knob, even probably good to ask about, and the pitch bend. So it sounds like a whole bunch of things to do, but on the flip side, I mean, you'll know pretty quickly if you have those kinds of issues. Beyond that, I mean, this is my second one. The first one I just was like, I don't know if I like it anymore. And then I kind of missed it after I sold it. It is a nice little device for just kind of banging out ideas real quick. It's quite flexible and it is incredibly portable. So it has a lot going for it. Biggest issue is the amount of memory. I think it's got 64 megabytes of sample time and sample space. So you can't go do a whole bunch with it to record a whole bunch of tracks and things. But if you're going to use the internal sense and a lot of the internal sounds that are already in here, you'll have plenty to work with. And it does work pretty well with over USB with other devices. I would suggest, if you're curious what this is for, like this overlay, um, zoom in, Oversynth. If you go check them out, they have a front sticker that will kind of give you some extra information so you don't have to try and memorize quite as much. And they get a back sticker that has a lot of the key combos and what the different things are or do when you're making those changes. Anyway, hope that helps you out. Big One Tower, and everybody else, thanks for stopping by. Keep making music, keep having fun. Remember, if it sounds good, it is good. And peace.